Hello and welcome to today's webinar on creating airport capacity through self-service bag drop solutions. On behalf of International Airport Review and eezeetags, I'd like to thank you all for attending. Today's speakers will be Doug Wyckoff, Director of Digital Solutions and Innovation at Tampa International Airport, Rupin Filora, Aviation Executive, formerly of Miami International Airport, Bori Vreeling, founder of eezeetags, Steve Tukavkin, Vice President of IT and Digital at JFK International Air Terminal. Afterwards, we will move on to a live Q&A session where the speakers will be available to answer your audience questions. Please remember that you can submit questions at any point during the webinar using the Ask a Question panel found in the menu on the right side of your screens. So let's begin, and I will now hand over to the first speaker, Rupin, to get you started and introduce today's topic. Thank you.
Thanks. Good day, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Again, today's topic is creating airport capacity through self-service backdrop solutions. That is a hot ticket item. As you know, we've had record number of passengers. The airports are super jam-packed. The airlines have too many flights, high load factors. So what we are trying to do is figure out ways and methods to make a seamless passenger journey. And part of that big is part of the big solution is these bag drop solutions, right? So we're trying to create more capacity, more flow through the airports to see what we can do to keep the passenger traffic flowing. And we have a great panel with me today. With that, I would like to do a brief introduction of each of my esteemed panelists. Let's start with Steve first, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Steve Tukavkin. I'm the VP of IT and Digital for JFK IAT. We manage and operate JFK International Terminal 4. I've had around 23 years experience in aviation technology roles. Started at Brisbane Airport Corporation for a number of those. Had the opportunity to work at Amsterdam Airport Schiphol and arrived here in New York City in 2016. Yeah. I'm leading our digital transformation and look forward to the conversation today.
Thank you, Steve. I love the backdrop. Thank you. Let's move on to my friend Doug.
Good morning, everybody. Doug Wyckoff, Director of Digital Solutions and Innovation at Tampa International Airport. And our group handles the technology aspect of the passenger experience and where we're going with it and the various solutions to try to enhance that, to answer a lot of the questions that are on the table, exactly what Rupin mentioned. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Bori, how about yourself?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Ruben. My name is Bori Freeling. I am the founder of eezeetags. eezeetags are one of the tiny details in this whole self-service backdrop process. Actually, one of the interactions between the technology and the passenger. What we have done is created a intuitive, self-adhesive, linerless bag that passengers can self-tag their bag. We do that at around and about 70 airports, around and about for the same amount of airlines. And last year, almost 60 to 70 million passengers interacted with our product to self-tag their bag.
Fantastic. Just a little about myself. Again, I'm aviation executive, 25 years in the business. Been at 6-7 different airports, done some consulting. So happy to be here with everyone. So let's dive right in. Why don't we discuss any initiatives or projects that either Steve or Doug at Tampa or JFK, you guys have been working on for the self-service backdrop.
Go ahead, Steve.
Let's start with you, Steve.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we see digital transformation as a key enabler to really enhance the passenger experience, improve terminal efficiencies, and airport capacity is a major challenge for a lot of us, especially the major hubs in the US. JFK IAT recently completed a $1.5 billion terminal transformation and expansion program. And a major component of that was implementation of our common use self-service technology in the departures lobby. So our CUS deployment covers 5 check-in rows that are specifically for common use in a hybrid configuration with 100 self-service kiosks and 42 self-service bag drops. It's been a really interesting program of work, part of our terminal transformation program to really ensure that we're able to facilitate the increase in passenger numbers over the past few years. The terminal was designed for a number of millions of passengers. Last year, we exceeded 27 million passengers through our facility. So it's a lot of passengers getting through, especially in the summer peak days of 90,000 passengers per day. 14 of our 16 airlines utilize a white label application developed and designed by Amadeus on our self-service backdrops. And so, I'd like to talk through, the conversation today on some of the barriers, some of the challenges and lessons learned from our implementation. Over to you, Doug.
Yeah, we look forward to that. It's just incredible that how much volume of passengers and airlines that these terminals are seeing in the last 10, 12 years, especially through COVID to the resumption of travel again. I mean, the infrastructure is completely taxed, and it's great to see airports like your terminals and also Tampa that is implementing all these self-service bag drops. Doug, how about you? Let's talk about some initiatives around this and projects.
Yeah, very very much like Steve. I think we're all of the challenge right now of real estate as a premium, and it's like we always talk about. The airport owns the house, but we just can't keep adding rooms to the house. We've got to become more efficient, and one of the big benefits of that is with the common use self-service backdrop is that piece of real estate that may have just only been owned by a single airline for 4 lanes of self-service backdrop now can be used by every airline that flies out of our airport. And I think the key initiative, the beauty for us is that we're have several projects going on at the same time. We have the upgrade of our baggage system, which is going to allow any entry point to get to any airside, which really automates our self-service solution. And at the same time, we've got the airside D and the ticket level monetization. All 3 significant projects are coming together as we evolve into the 28-29 window. And self-storage backdrop is going to be a huge benefit from the perspective of valuable real estate. We're a little bit unique because we're not a hub airport, so we don't have that single carrier that carries a prominent load. So we have a lot of carriers that do two to 5 flights a day. So that makes all of that a little bit more challenging. So the more we can consolidate and reuse that real estate for the same process for other airlines makes a big difference in our real estate battle.
That's amazing. I think like specifically here in our North American sector, both your airports are really spearheading these efforts. You guys are truly on the cutting edge of this, and kind of just paving the way for a lot of other people to see, hey, what are the best practices, how to achieve this, because a lot of it is also building your relationships with the stakeholders and getting that buy-in, right? And I seen that could be a make or break type of a point for all the airports. So good to hear you guys are making a lot of great progress. Um, let's move on to Bori. What are your thoughts and maybe some initiatives and projects that you've been working on trying to convince the airlines and the airports to start using these tags?
Yeah, well, one of the advantages of being a supplier too is that you not only focus on one project, you see a lot. And eezeetags started basically 15 years ago in Europe. I'm European, I'm Dutch, and it started because of the airports in Europe being challenged even more than in the States, because often there is not even a chance to build an extra building, because we are cramped, we are closed in by the cities that we fly on, and so technology needed to take over already a little bit earlier, and that's basically what we see in Europe, especially at the bigger hubs, but also at the smaller, more regional airlines that are often used by the low-cost carriers that will try to have a very quick turnaround time and a very efficient passenger processing. Self-service is part of their offering. They don't print a boarding card. They don't do anything like that. Everything is digitalized over their app, etc. And also, self-service backdrop is one of the things that they really were early adopters with, and in a very, very, very efficient way. And that is by now still are these European low-cost carriers, the famous Ryanair and easyJets of this world, are the biggest users of the easytags product, just because of this cost-effective efficiency next to passenger experience, of course.
Very, very interesting. Um, I know we are talking about all our wins that we're having, so why don't we discuss some of these challenges and barriers to entry, right? So I mean that is a whole different conversation to be had, because there's a lot of pushback sometimes from the airlines, sometimes the airport authority, just the progress of the RFPs or where the projects may lie. So there's a lot of challenges coming into this industry and trying to make this self-service bag drop and even moving to a common use system. So with that being said, I open it up. Maybe Doug, you can chime in some barriers to entry that you've experienced.
Yeah, the big challenge obviously is the airlines, because to us, to the airline, we're one airport. We're one airport, and we, as Steve alluded to, a lot of the airlines that are on the equipment already are white label type apps that are sitting on there. We're really looking to work with them to get a full functioning app, where in a perfect world, we'll take your biometric at the kiosk, walk over to the self-service bag drop, pick you up, drop you, and move on your way. You're talking about a 30 or 40-second transaction from the time you get your bag tag. So yeah, working with each of the airlines, smaller airlines are certainly a big challenge as well. The newcomers in the industry. But I think that's the biggest challenge, is trying to get to work through those problems, get to the right person, trying to generate that interest from the airline to come down and be part of the solution, because we certainly know it has to be part of our world going forward, especially over the next 2 to 4 years. And so we're trying to get out in front of it as early as possible. But we definitely want to be able to tag it, bag it, collect money, process everything right there. And right now we're in a hodgepodge of who takes money, who doesn't take money, who's a full service and who's not. So that's some of the big challenge. Steve?
Thank
Yeah,
you, Steve.
yeah, quite interesting what Doug's talking about. And hey, similar challenges with us here at T4. During our implementation, we really emphasized the need to collaborate with all the airline local station managers and their respective teams, but also the IT, the technology, guys in the headquarters, the airline's headquarters, and close collaboration with our vendor, and ensuring that all parties understand what the requirements are from a technical perspective, the various different dependencies, and how the solution will come about from a business rules perspective at the bag drop. Certain airlines have got different conditions, and how they're sort of carried out in a timely manner to meet the launch of our self-service product. So, some of the things that we've learned over the past sort of 18, 20 months is, adoption and usability, right? So from a passenger perspective, some passengers are not very familiar with this technology yet. This is quite new, even though it's been around for quite some time in the Asia Pac, the Middle East. In the US, it's quite new still, I think. It depends on the demographics of the passengers, but language and accessibility are another common challenge. So we've incorporated different types of language, availability of different languages in the white label application. Airlines also accommodate, based on their passenger profiles, that they've identified different multi-language accessibility options at the kiosk, because they're responsible for the self-service check-in application. But I think also one other common sort of usability aspect from a passenger perspective is the fear of errors. Is this technology going to really work? Can I trust it, right? I've actually seen some passengers take photos of their baggage as it's sort of before it's inducted into the bag drop and into the baggage handling, and also as it rolls away, right? Quite interesting stuff. And then obviously there's some other aspects around security and compliance, regulatory with TSA. These are really important, barriers to entry in here, and we need to make sure we dot the I's, cross the T's with the various government agencies, especially around security plans. We recently implemented, last year, one of the early adopters of biometrics at the self-service backdrops, right? To really streamline our check-in process. So we have 9 airlines enabled. This is a very new technology using the back-end US CBP travel verification system. And, they're still in the process of amending those security plans with TSA. This stuff doesn't happen overnight, but we really see the enhancement of using biometrics by providing a seamless validation without fumbling through, passport documents and doing those checks and balances with an airline agent. But yeah, a couple of
So, so,
other ones. Yeah.
so
So
Steve, on this with the biometrics, is this a pilot program that you're doing right now, or is it like bringing a POC and getting validated and getting, all the regulatories to understand what exactly how you're complying with this? Oh.
yeah, some airlines have been testing this technology for the past couple of years. With specific TSA pre-check programs. This is a
Mm-hmm.
new pilot program called Testing and Evaluation, a trial of biometrics at the bag drops for common use, terminal operators and providers. The aim here is to collaborate really closely with TSA and also Customs and Border Protection to activate this technology, and also make sure that the technology is meeting the various different quality assurance sort of levels and targets of the accuracy of the technology. So we've worked with both government agencies to make sure it's feasible, ticks all the boxes, and we're beginning to enable more airlines to participate and then amend their security plans with TSA. So I think
Fantastic.
this will continue to be adopted over the coming years.
Fantastic. Bori, how about yourself? Talk to us about some of the barriers of entry, some of the hardships that you faced coming into the industry and convincing the airport authority, all the airlines, all the regulatories.
Well, I can tell you that from my perspective, being more out of a label industry flowing into the airline industry, I was quite amazed by the complexity of the industry. I must say that indeed all those silos that even within the same company that are there, and that a lot of organizations have trouble seeing the complete pictures because they're also so siloed. And that was one of the things that really struck me most of the airline industry. What we can see in Europe is that is changing. Doug was already referring to the airport and the airlines, and the airlines want their own stuff, and the airports just, what we see, if the challenges are big enough, let's say if the lines are long enough, and if the processing of the passengers is a big challenge, and no matter what airline, you see that more and more airlines and airports start working together to solve these challenges. And where we see in Europe a lot of airports that are truly common use, meaning that without uh, any airline, you can check in for at any flying any airline, you can check in at any self-service device at the airport, and I think that is the true way of implementing self-service. Also, if you look at that, and we have some really nice um, um, uh, situations in Europe, for instance, Dublin Airport, where they also made use of a completely different use of space. I mean, at every airport in the world, there are there's a lot of open space, and this open space is there mostly for queuing. And if you use that open space to put in digital check-in devices, digital backdrops, digital whatever kind of solutions, you will see that this same footprint can be used in a much more efficient way. But that can only be done if you do it out of a common use perspective. We're all in this together, so work together. And that is something that in the last 15 years that I've been in this industry is changing rapidly now, especially after COVID.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think through COVID, especially in North America, we've realized how to pivot quickly, how to have quicker adoption rates when it comes to technology. Previously, it used to take us 5, 10 years just to kind of set direction to go a certain way. But through COVID, we've realized, and through capacity constraints, we've realized how important it is to pivot and adopt technology quickly. So just summarizing this, barriers to entry, I would say adoption rate, of course, the regulatories, stakeholder engagement, and then I think even a big challenge would be just for the airports and the infrastructure, the investment that goes into it. Right now, all these IT systems are coming in, all these layers of security are going in, all these data silos are being opened up. So everything is kind of flowing into this infrastructure, IT infrastructure of the airport. So all that also needs to have big upgrades. Um, Before we move on, I have a quick question that just popped up from one of our attendees. So here's the question. Can you share how long your transaction times at bag drops were before introducing biometrics and after? Delta claims 25 seconds in Atlanta a few years ago. Is this realistic?
I guess that question's for me.
Steve, you got biometrics.
So yeah, your transaction times and backdrops before introducing biometrics and after.
Yeah, I would say it dramatically reduces the transaction time. Yeah, for those airlines that don't use biometrics today, it depends on whether you have your documents ready. I would say, right? So it could vary between 45 seconds to 2 minutes, right? So I think with the adoption and enablement of biometrics at the bag drop, you're sort of eliminating one step of the manual process, but also, the wait time of an airline agent actually coming over to you to validate and do the manual checks and balances with you, and that's one of the big advantages of moving towards a biometric enabled self-service bag drop, is that we're trying to automate the TSA required ID verification process to allow sort of passengers to perform the necessary things they need to do on the screen before the baggage is inducted into the baggage handling system. So yeah, it could save 25 seconds. It could save more time. So, but on average, we see between 45 seconds to a minute. But to answer your question, I have used also the Delta bag drops in LAX, and it is super fast. I don't have TSA pre-check, unfortunately, because I'm Australian, but I've seen people utilize it, and it is 30 seconds, no more than 30 seconds. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. So we're going from minutes waiting in a queue, looking for an agent, waiting through that whole process, to now
Yep.
you walk up, to a self-service kiosk. All the magic is already done in the back. You come, put your PNR, whatever, drop your bag there, get a tag, and you're good to go. So it just boils down to less than a minute or a few seconds.
And I think the
Doug?
big thing
Yeah,
is you're giving the passenger control, and that's what they're after. They don't want to
Yes.
come and talk to five people on their way to. They just want to come in. There's an open bag drop. They want to be able to drop their bags, do their part, and move on. And I think that's the beauty of it. The quicker we can get to Steve's point, the quicker we can get to single ID, where like I said, and we're certainly procured the hardware to do it, where people can do a real ID verification on the machine. We can drop we can get it down to a one-step perspective from that standpoint. We'll even cut this
Amazing.
down further. I think you're always going to have the family speed time and the single traveler speed time. They're always going to be different. But the speed to the single business guy, I mean, to Steve's point, you're going to be once you have your bag tag, you're going to be in and out between 30 and 45 seconds, I think.
I think adding these elements of biometrics along the passenger journey is just basically whittling your time down, your dwell time down to seconds. So now you have more time to spend at the airport. You can be less stressed. You can enjoy yourself. Probably even spend more money. Bori, did you have anything to add to that before we move on to the next?
yeah. Because it's good to hear that the biometrics are kind of used to do the whole TSA process. Difference, of course, between Europe and the US is that in Europe we don't have this TSA thing. There's no need to do a positive identification between the person and the bag. That's something that we do not do in Europe. So that was not a hurdle to get into self-service backdrop, and we see that in the US. That's probably the reason why you are now just starting with self-service backdrop because of this TSA. If you can solve that with biometrics, it would be fantastic, because then you see what we see indeed. 10 seconds. Sometimes people do it in 10 seconds. Sometimes it takes a minute, but it hardly gets over a minute. Yeah.
Great. So we have the projects on the plate. We're making the investments. We're building those relationships. We're doing the adoption. We got some barriers to entry. Now let's just talk about, hey, what are some of the benefits of this? Are we beginning after implementing self-service backdrop? Are we beginning to actually see the benefits from the passenger wait time to even the spend time? What's it looking like from the airport perspective? So maybe Doug, you can jump in. Start with you.
Yeah, no, I think Steve will agree. I think the biggest thing is the quicker you can get people processed, and what that's also going to allow us to do that we're already looking at is multiple is some unique induction points. Give you a great example. We have, as you know, Ruben, we have a long-term parking garage. What if you had people? We park 500,000 cars there a year. If you can get one installed there that allows all those people not to have to go to your ticket level at all. They come in on a transfer level, go to their airside, and. So I think that's the biggest flexibility is just freeing up that passenger time. Now I think some of your business travelers will just cut that down and how late they come, but for the most part, I think it is streamlined. It will take a lot of stress away from the passenger experience and just allow them to settle in. Everybody wants to know they're at their gate, what it's on time, and where we're going. So I think the spin will increase. It will create less stress, and I think most importantly, we as airports are going to be able to get some valuable real estate back for instead of building, we're optimizing the square footage that we have.
Fantastic. Thank you. Steve,
Hey,
the benefits.
there's a variety of benefits with self-service kiosk and bag drop technology. I think Doug covered the reduced wait times, right? That's a pretty key benefit, I would say. But I think it's around increased convenience for the passengers. They want to be in control of the journey. Some of the passenger profiles we've assessed and studied, those passengers don't want to interact with airport staff. It's quite useful for this technology for those that are in a hurry or prefer to avoid the human interaction. To use this technology, but on the other hand, we need to make sure we cater for all the different passenger profiles as well. for that human element of touch for those VIPs or those premier business passengers that necessarily want someone else to do all of that stuff for you and not self-tag, for example. But I think some of the other key ones around, and this, seminars around capacity, right, management, better resource allocation, to Doug's point. So more bytes over bricks. I think I mentioned this in a couple of other discussions I've had around this topic, is how do we, utilize better all of our space more efficiently without expanding terminals. And New York City is very costly to do that. So I think we've done a great job to make sure that we utilize all of our space as efficient as possible. But this technology also introduces enhanced data collection, I would say, and we're in a process right now to really begin to collect and measure the effectiveness of the self-service technology. So how do we improve the services that we offer with our airlines to improve the passenger experience? And it's all about collecting valuable data. We use passenger flow management technology and also analytics from our technology provider to really assess and understand the transaction time, but also where there's opportunities to improve various different processes. I think one sort of addition I'd like to add is like that in barrier that we didn't talk about was manual visa checks, certain government regulations of the countries of destination, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges there. So how do we use the data that we collect from the technology to ensure and enhance the experience with those passengers that need to pre-queue to allow the airline to do the checks, balances around their visas before they're even allowed to utilize a self-service kiosk or a bag drop. So we're looking at a number of different sort of initiatives around an early check-in process to help alleviate those pains and those pre-queues as well.
I believe so. There's an element of, I guess, education embedded in there, right, with your partners, with the airlines, because at the end of the day, then the airline somehow also needs to translate that message to their passengers, saying this is what you're going to expect if you fly into, Terminal 4. This is what you're going to expect if you're flying international from Tampa to whichever country. So I think that enhancement is also necessary for us to kind of hold the hands of our partners and show them the value in this and educate them on this, so then they can spread it to the business community or the flying community as well.
Absolutely.
Bori, what about you? Why don't you discuss some of the benefits of what you see from your end?
Well, one of the benefits that we see in Europe is, of course, that after COVID, not everybody wanted to work for the airlines or the airports anymore. So we have a big challenge getting enough people to do the job. And what we see is with passengers getting experience in the self-service environment, you need less and less floor walkers, as we call them. Steve just mentioned we need to make sure that we service every kind of passenger, also the passenger that still are in need of help. Yes, indeed. But what we see is that from a one-to-one passenger desk and agent ratio, if you're not self-servicing, you can grow to even in extreme cases into a 1-to-10. So one floor walker overlooking 10 self-service kiosks slash backdrops. And that is, of course, a great benefit if staff is hard to get. Just mention the cost of staff in general. It's a big payoff for the self-service environment without compromising on the passenger experience, because what Doug also related to is people want to be in charge of their own process.
Sorry about that. Absolutely, you're correct. I think we live in a society now in the age that everyone is so well connected. All the digital information is on their fingertips. They want a personalized, customized service, and they want to own their own data. They want to find their own way through the airports, and they want to have the convenience of doing that. So, as airports also, we have made so much investments in concessions, food and beverage, in like a mall experience, providing every amenity that we can at the airports. In your opinion, are we beginning to see maybe a change in passenger behavior where now they are beginning to find more time that they can spend, after security at the gates, at the concessions, at the retail? So they're having more time, maybe a pleasurable experience, maybe the spend is going up. Do you see that progress happening yet?
I think from the perspective of it'll be a slow transition because the education is slow. Let's be honest. Some people fly once a year, some people fly twice a year. So I think it'll be a slow transition from that standpoint. But I mean, but more importantly, I think it will be people want to be able to manage their own time, and they don't like the fact that when their time, if they have 90 minutes to get to a flight or something, they don't like not being in control of that window. So I think the biggest benefit, some of the big benefits, yes, is but we're moving people quicker. That's the big thing. Is we're getting people to their destination quicker, where it gets it out of our main traffic patterns. I'm sure Steve has the same thoughts of the fact that your congestion areas are your ticket levels, your entry points, and that type of stuff. And the quicker we can get them in and get them dispersed to where they want to be, certainly enhances not only the potential concessions money flow, but it allows us to keep the people congestion discussion and congestion unsettledness within the main terminal as a huge benefit.
How about you, Steve? Did you see that type of behavior, more dwell time, past security, spending more money maybe at the concessions?
Well, yeah, I think we are. It's a little bit difficult to quantify the measurement of increase in pax per spend. Obviously, with the increase in passenger numbers, it equates to more revenue, right, at the end of the day. But it's difficult to assess that. And, we've seen a number of things over the past 18, 20 months in our self-service sort of journey. Our preference is around a two-step seamless process, right? The first step is to obviously check in at the kiosk, print out your boarding pass if you don't have it on your airline mobile app, print out a bag tag, self-tag. Um, there's agents roaming around from the airlines to assist with that self-tagging, and then proceed to the bag drop, and you're on your way, right? And what we've seen is a dramatical, together with TSA, we've seen an incremental early arrival curve at the security checkpoints. That means that people are spending less time at check-in, right? Pre-queues, queuing, the traditional method of check-in, right? They're getting to the TSA security checkpoint a lot earlier. That means that you've created a new sort of challenge.
Hmm.
However, we've been working with TSA on addressing and optimizing that new arrival curve at the security checkpoint through optimization of various different resources, making sure they have enough TSOs based on the projected sort of demand and estimated sort of number of lanes they need to satisfy a KPI, joint KPI that we have with TSA. And that means a more seamless check-in process as well as a security, efficiency process to get them through into the retail lounge to allow them to spend more time at their sort of leisure, whether it's in the lounge, restaurant, bar, etc. And that satisfies, it's a massive benefit, I would say.
So many elements of the passenger experience or the guest experience are being elevated through these technologies, self-service
Absolutely.
technologies we are using. But at the same point, at the same token, Steve, as you mentioned, now the influx of passengers are sitting at the checkpoints. So now we have to optimize the checkpoints to flush them through, get them through whether it's resource allocation, whether it's more digitization, whether it's reserving your place in line to get screened with your family. So there are many options out there. Of course, TSA has a variety. Clear has an
Yep.
option. TSA PreCheck is there. So there are a multitude of available resources and services available. So it's fine tuning every element of the operation that eventually gives you a seamless travel, a better passenger experience, and I'm sure you see that translate into your scores, your passenger scores, right? Going through the troughs and the highs and the lows. Bori, what about you? What are your thoughts regarding the passenger experience being elevated, and are the passengers spending more time, having a less stressful time at the airport when they start using some of these technologies, self-service elements?
Yeah, well, there is, of course, when an airport first introduces self-service, it probably will have a higher stress level at the passengers because it's the first time that they have to do it, etc. Once they get more experience with it, they love it. They really love it, and but we all think that if we have happy passengers and we get them through the system quicker, that they are more happy to spend money at the retail area. I don't think that that has really ever been investigated in the really numbers. But if I look at what Schiphol is doing, Amsterdam Schiphol is doing at the moment, because I was there yesterday at their retail area after introducing big time self-service, because that's basically the standard over there. It must help because they are doing such big investment in reconstructing the retail area, and new shops and new restaurants and new things are opening up like crazy. So it must help. I don't know, but I've not seen an investigation conducted that there is a one-to-one relation between getting people through quicker and spending money. But I'm sure if you talk to people that are a bit more in that area of the airline industry, they
Mhm.
can tell you some information. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think back to Steve and Doug's point, and also yours, that all these technologies that we're implementing right now, the self-service technologies, it's too early to kind of define how much dwell time that passengers are actually having past security, and what's that translating into monies. Yes, we see more concessions, more retail going up. Also, the passenger volume is going up. But at some point, we will arrive the saturation moment where we will be able to now see, okay, what does each self-service how much money is spent at the airport? Is it going up, coming down, leveled up, or what exactly is it? So good to know that. While we're discussing this, I'm just looking at the question feed. Um, there's a question that just came up that's they wanted to know, as we introduce all these self-service kiosks, putting them in different areas, are we actually gaining a lot more retail space back where we can now have more retail or concessions? Are we seeing a gain in space? Doug, I know you mentioned that it's giving you more space back. Are you actually seeing that?
Think, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was Steve, but I mean, I think most of the places that these are going, the self-service platforms aren't heavy real estate areas. I think the so I mean I think it's allowing us to handle the growth without having to. But I'm happy to borrow that phrase, Steve. The bits and bricks. That's I love that. I think that's allowing us to not build. So that's when I say about the space, it allows us to process another 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 million passengers without having to build that room addition. So so it's really a space optimization, and I just don't think, at least at our house, where we're putting the self service bag drops and so forth, really isn't a heavy retail area. It just gets people out of that area quicker and allows them to get into those areas.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, as all our infrastructure is completely maxed out with passengers and all this, throughput, as we introduce these self-service kiosks, is definitely opening up more space to optimize the space for having more passengers in there, more customers in there, probably even more airlines to come in there then. Great. Um, so moving on, and maybe Bori, let's start with you. Who do you think is driving these initiatives of self-service? Is it the airlines? Is it the airports? Is it a combination, or it just depends geographically where you're located?
Well, it depends definitely geographically, and it also depends definitely on the challenges that are on this specific location. And the location is, of course, the airport, but it's all operated by the airlines and the airport itself. But if the challenges are big enough, then airlines and airports start working together, and then the airport more or less takes over. That's what we see. They take over the investments, they take over the consumables, they take over, let's say, managing this whole passenger process because it is in the interest of everybody. And I think the only one that can really have an overview over all processes is the airport. So that's what we see in Europe is that we see this transfer in not only being let's say, renting out space, more and more going to managing the whole process, also on the terminal side and not only on the air side.
And Bori, interesting to hear. I think earlier on you mentioned that much of the adoption was done by the low-cost carriers in Europe.
Yep, yep, yeah. Because
Interesting.
yeah, they of course want to operate as low cost as possible. And you know, I always say that if you empower passengers to be their own check-in agent and their own drop-off agent, then you don't need staff. And that is basically the most, because we pay to fly. So we pay to do the job. And that is the most efficient and the most cost effective way you can operate your business. As I said, if you fly with one of the major low cost carriers over here in Europe and you do not have a boarding card already printed out or on your phone or whatever, and you need it to be printed on the airport, they charge you. They charge you big time. They charge you $25, which is, of course, everybody, which is a way to make people be prepared. And sometimes it's not seen as service, but on the other hand, people also do want a cheap ticket. And if you want a cheap ticket, yeah, you have to do something yourself. And that is things and it simply it works. I mean, uh, that's what it is. And you see more and more going to digital, more going to not kiosks, but this device, your phone, as being the enabler of all digitalization, also printing backtext, not on a kiosk where you can check in, etc., but just on a printing ball, which is basically a printer with a nice
Mhm.
package. So and yeah, so there is a yeah, that's why these people and these companies have adopted were the really early adopters of the self-service technology. Not only Backdrop, but a lot of these self-service um, initiatives.
Great. How about my esteemed airport colleagues? Is the conversation driven by the airport authority mainly, or airlines, or combination? Because I know you guys have to build those relationships with our stakeholders and kind of hold their hand sometime and get some buy-in to these projects. So who is leading these conversations?
Now,
Steve.
I'll go first. I think to Bori's point, it's all about geography and who's managing the terminal or the airport, right? In the US, a lot of airlines are still driving the conversation because they're operating those terminals or within the airport. There's major hubs of different of the big four airlines in the US, and they are driving the capital conversation with alongside the airport authority if they are involved. On the other hand, a lot of the depending on the location in the US, a lot of the airport authorities are driving that conversation because it's very expensive to build new terminals and relife them, and so airports are that operate a common use environment. That don't operate a common use environment today are looking at common use environments. I would say that's a growing trend in the US.
Yes.
Right? So a more desired plan to work towards self-service technology without the need to physically expand, the facilities.
It's the latter part of that is very interesting, and I was going to bring that up, that more and more airports are now adopting and seeing the value of common use with all these capacity constraints. They want to be able to fire up any airline at any check-in counter, use any multiple gates, terminals, concourses, so they can have a better ebb and flow of traffic coming in and out. So I see, I agree with you. That's a growing trend. What about you, Doug? Who's driving
Yeah,
these
that's
conversations? And do you also see this, the common use
so.
growing?
Well, I think all of us will agree that airlines have always had the desire to control their own destiny. I mean, they always want to they want to do that, but we've always the airport has always had the responsibility to build them enough rooms to house their experience. So I think ultimately it's a win-win. I think the dynamic changes a little bit because um, the airline gives up a little bit of control, but for the most part, the common use system is what their system is. So it's no different than the common use gating, the common use ticketing. We have got to optimize. We've got to have 5 to 7 turns a day. To
Right.
get full use out of the gates. We probably have 4 or 5 airlines that have one international flight a day. Now that one is taking up 8 or 10 ticket counters. We've got to be able to roll it and create let it be from it was Edelweiss, now it's got to be Copa in 2 hours. So it used to be you hang the signs up, that's Copa's house, hey, that's Edelweiss's house, and that's the way it's sad, and that is just not the reality of where we are. Everything has got to be better utilized, and it changes the way your dynamics on wayfinding, because that used to be your ticketing back level was your wayfinding. Say, hey, okay, I know where I'm going, that's good, and it may not pop up until 3 hours before the flight is supposed to go out, because that's their assigned ticket counter now. So there's a lot of things that had to change. But to go back to your core question, I think it does go back a little bit to geography. It goes back to what the need of the airport really is. If the airport has room to expand and grow, then I think some of them will. But at the same time, Schiphol is a master of reinventing itself. They do it very, very well, and we're all, I think, domestically are getting in that position where we're happy to reinvent ourselves and optimize the square foot we have. We're all, through time and evolution and cities growing, have kind of got landlocked, and so we have to
Mhm.
optimize what we have.
Excellent. Um, so I have another question for you. Another question popped up while we're talking about self-service and everyone, passengers wanting a seamless end-to-end journey. Here's a question. What are the benefits for the workers? Have you seen a decrease in worker injury or injury costs? Are workers more satisfied with reduced passenger interaction? Are we hiring fewer staff? What's going on? What are your thoughts? Bori, we'll start with
Yeah,
you.
yeah. May I ask? Because this is indeed a very good question. And in my experience, having talked to a lot of airline staff that were moved from behind the desk to the floor and became from a check-in agent a floor walker, and they probably lost some colleagues because of the efficiency that self-service brings in general. You would expect that they were afraid of their job, and oh well, it's a new job, it's a new way of interacting. But you know, um, doing repetitive work behind the desk, checking people in while there is a line, is as such not really interesting work. and talking to passengers, helping them finding their way, uh, helping them with their first tag of the bag, and then the family can do themselves, and asking them, where are you going, what's your destination, going on holiday, etc. In my experience, having talked to a lot of these kinds of workers in all different parts of the world, they love their job much more than just sitting behind a desk and doing repetitive computer entry work. Much more.
Thank you. Doug, what are your thoughts about the workforce?
I
Are
think
we
it's
decreasing the
it's a little too
workforce?
early for us. Yeah, we're still in the early parts of it, but I mean, I think there is certainly a control factor from that standpoint. But I don't think it necessarily replaces workers as much as it, yes, as Boy alluded to, it changes, sometimes it changes the dynamics of their job, as they take a different role. But I think the bigger thing, and this is what we talk about with our executive team here in Tampa, is the fact that we want to slow down the requirement. Just because we go up 1 million passengers, we can't continue to add. That equates to 100 employees. So we've got to start bringing that down. As the passengers go up, the demand for additional heads has got to go down, because we're losing the financial battle when you keep throwing heads at everything. So we're trying to get smarter and throw in this. This is, I think, a great example of the fact that no, heads won't go away. I just think less new heads will come on board. Steve, is that what you guys are seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a change of behavior for the airline agents and the handlers, right? At the end of the day, it's change management. So, how does the airline now interact differently? Instead of behind the counter, in front of the counter with the new self-service technology. So, it's a change management journey for all of our airlines as well. And it will take time, but I think there's a bright future there around personalization and making sure that the passenger feels comfortable with the check-in process, along with the technology.
Yeah, I agree with all of you. I think this is a great opportunity for us as industry leaders, aviators, as the business transforms, becomes more digitized. All these technologies are being used on the employee side. We have a chance now to upskill some of our employees, right? People that are interested in growing, people that are interested in becoming more tech savvy. We have an opportunity to make them understand what are some of these services, what is the digital aspect behind this, and how we upskill the workforce. I think that's a key element that we all can appreciate and introduce our employees to, and continue to make them grow. So thank you. Moving on, I think we have just a few more minutes left, but um, what do you think is the future of these self-service technologies and the passenger wanting all the self-service? Do you have any type of pilot programs that you're using now that might be the future, or you might be thinking is the future, or trialing something? What do you think is the future? And if you're trying any technologies, Doug?
Well, I think Steve's summed it up there, when you talk about the biometrics and what I call biometrics curb to gate. I think once we get through the TSA hurdle of the checkpoint, where they can continue to have the biometric piece, I think we'll build that token early on and just carry it through our airport, where people the phone will be a thing of the past, the paper will be a thing of the past, and you're always going to have the one off, just like you're always, Delta's always going to have some level of ticket counter. United's always going to have some level of ticket counter, but they're not going to have the 25 stations that maybe that they have today. So I think that's kind of where we're headed with the biometric piece, and I think it will. And everybody, it's like any technology, everybody is going to use it to that as much as they understand it, and that's all four of us on here will use it to a different degree. I think Steve, are you seeing some of those same results?
Yeah, it's an interesting question where things are going. Obviously biometrics is a big enabler, but also artificial intelligence, I would say. I see probably more adoption of AI assistants at the kiosks, maybe. That's quite an interesting use case. self-tagging will continue, I think, but more smart tracking of bags, with Apple AirTags as an example. Is RFID going to come back or not? You've got and then you've got a new technology around camera vision, identifying the bag. Do you really need a bag tag? Sorry, Barry, but it's new technology around a company called Bags ID. So I think ideally the future of cuffs, self-service technologies around more automated process for allowing higher number of passengers to perform, passenger processing, with independent of any sort of airline involvement. I think that's where things are heading, with the introduction of CUS 2.0 as well. I think hopefully what I'm hoping for is better improved reliability of the self-service check-in applications. I think that's what I like to see. Some of those applications are a little bit buggy and they crash, unfortunately, but I think that's a great opportunity for improvement, and that obviously improves the passenger experience at the end of the day.
Thank you. Bori, your thoughts? What's the future?
Well, I think there is a future for further away from the airport self, off airport backdrop, at hotels, at venues. There's been a big trial done in Paris last year during the Olympics, and that was a big success in that area. So why should visitors of New York City go at the end of the day go back to their hotel to collect their bags, and why not just go directly to the airport, and the bags were already collected and dropped at the airport at a separate drop-off area by DHL or UPS or whatever. And of course there are challenges around TSA security, etc. But I think that will be something that we will be doing in 10 years from now massively.
Great. Thank you. I think it's been a great conversation. We've come to the end of our time. Great thought initiatives that each one of you are doing. I think the future is definitely bright for aviation. There's a lot more happening on the guest experience side, the stakeholders, the airport authorities, and just the communities itself. So great job, everyone. Thank you again for your time. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all the questions, but great conversation. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ruben.
Thank you, Ruben. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ruben, Doug, and Steve. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Please join me in thanking Doug, Rupin, Bori, and Steve for their time today. As you exit the platform, a survey will appear on your screen asking you to rate today's webinar. Please take a moment to provide your feedback, but if now is not a good time, the survey will be sent to you via email shortly. So please do complete that when you can. On behalf of International Airport Review and eezeetags, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's webinar, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you and goodbye.